that right there. It's at the bottom of the screen, right? You should see the icon. So just click on that and feel free to use that at any time. So in this webinar, we have the CATS team, the manager of the team, Rosalia. Hi, hello. And we have...
Hi, sorry, I was on mute. Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Hi. We have Nayo.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. We have Diana.
Hola.
We may or may not have Valerie. I'm not sure. It could be. And myself, Emily.
Well, thank you. So let's not waste any more time and jump right into the subject. So we're super excited, like Emily said, to have the account manager in higher education of LinkedIn Learning Solutions, Kareen Ndema. So we look forward to collaborating once again with Kareen. She facilitated an engaging workshop on how to rock your LinkedIn profile at our February 20th McGill SCS Career Fair. I hope a lot of you were there. And for those who weren't, well, you have a chance to assist. So she's experienced public policy professional who transitioned to tech. She currently works on LinkedIn Learning Solutions team and partner with post-secondary institutions across Canada to minimize the skill gap for students, faculty, and staff. So this session, How to Advance Your Career on LinkedIn, is designed to provide students with tips on how to build your network and advance their career on LinkedIn. The session will cover the importance of a strong professional brand, how to network on LinkedIn, and how to use their network to connect to opportunity. So once again, thank you, Kareen, and I'll let you start this.
Hey, thanks everybody. Thanks, Nayo, for the great introduction. Much appreciated. Hi, everyone. My name is Kareen Ndema, and like Nayo mentioned, I'm the account manager for higher education here in Canada. If you can write in the chat, let me know where you're coming from. If you're at McGill, what faculty are you with? What are you studying? And if you're working, just introduce yourselves. That would be great for me to know as I do this presentation. I'm going to share my screen right now because I have a slide presentation. It's going to last about 30-40 minutes, and then we will get into some question and answers. The chat is being monitored, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the chat. And please mute yourself also to make sure that everybody can hear this properly. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Yep. Awesome. So this is what we're going to cover. Again, how to build your network and advance your career on LinkedIn. We will get into some introductions. I'll introduce myself and a bit about my career trajectory. Then I'll introduce a bit about LinkedIn and what the platform is really designed for. We'll get into how you can build your LinkedIn presence and your LinkedIn profile, how you can build your professional network on the platform, and then finally, how to use your network to connect yourself to opportunities. And we'll have a Q&A. For the CATS team, I can't see the chat while I'm on the workshop, while I'm presenting. So if there's any questions and it makes sense, if there's a break in there, feel free to ask me. I'll also ping you to ask if there's any questions that we can answer as we go. Okay, so I wanted to do something a little different here. My boss has been really asking me since I started at LinkedIn about 10 months ago to interject a bit more about my personal journey and my career trajectory. And I've been kind of hesitant to do it in the past. So I'm gonna trial it with the CATS team. I know the CATS team is very inviting. It's a safe space. So I will share a bit more about my own personal journey. So as Nayo mentioned, I originally started in the public service, in the public sector, and finally transitioned to tech. And I graduated from the University of Ottawa. I am Ottawa born and raised, graduated from the University of Ottawa, studied political science and public administration. And then I headed straight into government, as everybody in Ottawa does. So I worked for the government of Canada, and I had a really cool job. I was working in international security. So really trying to keep Canadian diplomats safe overseas. It was a really cool job, but I wasn't super passionate about it. I stayed there for years and years, mainly because I was good at it and I didn't know anything else. I had studied government and I worked in government. It had made sense, right? But I had some really great mentors at the time, and really great people around me. And I saw the difference between them and myself. They were very passionate about the work they did, right? So they were getting promoted at way faster rates than I was, because again, they had that passion, and with that passion came innovation. So they were always finding new ways to do their job, and the result of their work was just better than mine. So eventually I was like, you know what? I've been here for X number of years. I need to leave and find something where I have that same passion. So I moved to Toronto, city of opportunities. I know you're probably all in Montreal, but Toronto is a place to be. So I moved to Toronto, and I went over to Mars Discovery District, which is the largest tech incubator in North America. And I was working on a program that connected students to job opportunities in some of Canada's fastest growing startups. And while I was there, I had some really great opportunities. Like, I got an opportunity to work with UN Women to promote tech careers to young women, to get them to consider opportunities in STEM as opposed to other career opportunities. So again, working with UN Women, more opportunities, more exposure. And then from Mars, I got the great opportunity to come over to LinkedIn, and I transitioned over to LinkedIn last summer. So again, I went from the public service with the government of Canada to nonprofit, and then I transitioned over to corporate. This may look very disjointed. It may look like a very disjointed career trajectory, but what I found in this career trajectory were actually my values. So what drove me, right? So again, I was really focused on finding my passion, finding my values, and really those values and your passion are the underlying themes that will drive your personal and professional decisions. If you think about it, somebody who has kids will be driven by something completely different than somebody who doesn't have children. Their values will be completely different, right? So for me, it was really essential for me to find what those values were, and then learning how to articulate them was also just as important. So my underlying value was students. I loved working with students. When I was in the government, I ran the co-op program there. So really had co-op students working under me on a regular basis. And all of those students weren't sure of how to navigate the complex field that was government. They all wanted to be diplomats for some reason, because they had no idea what other opportunities lied in government for them. So I found a lot of joy in showing them the other avenues that they could pursue. So I loved it there. And then that's what led me to Mars, because at Mars, I loved working with students, loved showing them the path that was a little less clear, right? So go work for a startup as opposed to working for a bank. At a startup, you can have the opportunity, like 10 times the opportunities that you could working at a bank. So again, connecting those students to those opportunities. And then finally, here at LinkedIn, I'm doing the exact same thing. I work with all higher education institutions in the country, all focused around creating opportunities for students. So in that process, I really learned how to articulate my value. And articulating that value is what helped connect me to aligning opportunities. So if I could summarize my value in one sentence, it is this: connecting students from marginalized communities to opportunities at scale. That is it. And if anybody asks me what my value is, why I do the work I do, it is simply for this reason. I grew up in community housing. I didn't have a lot of opportunities. My parents didn't have strong networks. They're first generation. They were first generation. I'm a first generation immigrant again. So they didn't have those networks, and I had to build those networks myself. So everything I do is around connecting students from marginalized communities to opportunities at scale. And that scale is super important, because I was doing it in government with a few students. I was doing it at Mars with a couple more students. And now here at LinkedIn, that is where I found that scale that I was looking for. Because even if we think of the University of McGill, McGill University, that's 50,000 students right there. That is scale. So really learning how to articulate your own value will help you in finding people and growing your network in the right direction, growing your network strategically, because you will find people who can help you in that process. If you can hear that, there's somebody vacuuming outside of my condo. This is just what happens when people start working from home, so I apologize. Okay, so my value is and my passion is very closely aligned with LinkedIn's vision. So LinkedIn's vision is to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. I do this in partnership with higher education, and I work to create economic opportunity for every student. LinkedIn, if you all have a LinkedIn profile, raise your hand. You can raise your hand on Zoom, just do it. If you don't, please take this opportunity to go make one. So LinkedIn, what it is a digital map of the growing global economy. Okay, so this map is continuously updated millions of times a day. We are the world's largest professional network. We don't even have, there isn't even a number 2. We are the world's largest professional network. We have over 670 million members, 30 million jobs, 23 million jobs, 30 million companies. And again, we have so much data on labor markets, and we have arguably more data on labor markets than a lot of governments do. And we take the insights from all of this data to empower you to understand trends in the workforce and where the opportunities lie. If you think about it, first thing somebody does when they get a new job, they update their LinkedIn profile. So this map is continuously updated. If you are in the Montreal region, we can tell you, hey, here are the top jobs in the Montreal regions. Here are the top skills here are the top skills that are in demand. How can you best position yourself to access those opportunities, right? So really working with higher education. I work with higher education to help them understand what the workforce is demanding and how to better prepare their students to access those opportunities. So students on LinkedIn, what can LinkedIn do for you? 4 things. It can connect you to the professional world. You can develop your professional brand and your professional voice, stay informed on industry and professional news, and then obviously get hired, build and grow your career. Where we're going to start today is right here. Develop your professional brand and your professional voice. They go hand in hand. We'll go through how to build your LinkedIn presence. I don't want to talk about building your LinkedIn profile, because building your LinkedIn presence is what is way more important. And this is what will help make opportunities come to you. In a hot job market like Montreal, any open role at, like, let's say a major tech company or a major bank, if it's a great job, you'll probably see hundreds of applicants, right, for that job, right? There are probably a bunch of people who are very qualified for that role who have applied. So how do we reverse this? How can we make opportunities come towards you as opposed to you having to go seek those opportunities? And LinkedIn is a great place to do that. If you were at the CATS, the career fair event in February where I gave this presentation, then you'll remember that I went through the profile checklist, and we'll do that again today. The first thing you want to do is to use your LinkedIn presence to show that you're the right choice, right? So you want to be able to show respect, responsibility, honesty, and that you are a caring person, and really articulate your values directly on your LinkedIn profile. That's why I talked about, again, having your value and your passion boil down to 1 sentence, because you want to be able to show that directly on your profile. And you want to make sure that your goals are very well stated for the short and medium term on your profile. So let's go through the profile checklist. This is Roman. Roman is a student at the University of Alberta. And Roman, I always use his profile because he is somebody who uses LinkedIn to generate opportunities. And I want every student to use LinkedIn exactly how Roman uses it. You see, he's like a branding king. He has branded himself as a LinkedIn consultant, and it has worked for him and opened a whole bunch of doors for him. So I'm going to use his profile to show you the essential components of a LinkedIn profile. First thing we have is the photo. You need a very strong photo on LinkedIn. You need a photo on LinkedIn. Profiles with photos are like 21 times more likely to receive views than profiles without photos. We have the headline. So your headline should speak to where you are now, but also where you are trying to go. So let's say you are a current student at the University of McGill and you're interested in opportunities in consulting. Have all of that in your headline, because sometimes the headline is all people see when they search for connections on LinkedIn. So you want to have everything that speaks to where you are and where you're going directly on your headline. We have the summary or the about section. Roman has written it here in third person. I'm a huge fan of writing this in first person because, again, your profile is not your resume, so it's a bit more personal. But this, again, speaks to your previous experience, your values, where you're trying to go. This is where you would write your goals for the short term and the medium term in that about section. What Nayo read about me in his little intro section was directly from my summary section. Again, you're just branding yourself. It's all about branding yourself. Your experience. If you are currently working, if you have professional experience, put it here. If you are a student who doesn't necessarily have professional experience just yet, put any volunteer experience here, put your volunteer experience, and then also any internship experience there also. If you are a career transitioner, and let's say you have like 10 years of experience under your belt and it's a bunch of different jobs, right? I would say put what is essential to where you are trying to go in this section. For example, while I was still studying, and even like the first 2-3 years of my career, I was still working retail. Like I was working retail since I was 14 up until I was 10 years later. So I was still working retail for a very long time, but I'm not going to put Forever 21 on my profile because it has nothing to do with where I'm going, right? So while it is in my experience, while I have worked there, if it's not speaking to where I'm going, and if other experience trumps that experience, I'm not going to load that there. Add your education. Your education is McGill University. Anything that you've had post high school, add it here. If you've done any certificates, diplomas, any degrees, add it there. Stuff that you're proud about. I did a speaker boot camp about 2 years ago, which helps with developing my public speaking skills. I got a certificate from that. I put that there. So put everything in your education if you have it that you're proud of. Your volunteer experience, again, if you don't have professional work experience, then put your volunteer experience in your work experience section. But if you do have professional experience, then put all other volunteer stuff in this section. Your skills. I am a huge fan of this skills section and utilize all of the skills that you have under your belt, put them in the skills section and make sure that they are highlighted here. The way LinkedIn recruiter software works is that it picks up on keywords on your profile. So if you are interested in working in sales and sales appears nowhere on your profile, then you will not be picked up for those opportunities. So make sure that you have specific sales skills highlighted on your profile. You can develop those skills in a bunch of different ways. You can watch free courses online. As long as you can show that you have a foundational knowledge of that skill, make sure it's on your profile. Awards, courses, and projects. These are really great if they are relevant to where you are trying to go, right? I got an entrance scholarship in university. Has nothing to do with where I'm trying to go. So if it is relevant to where you're trying to go, put it here. Or if you don't have a lot of current work experience, period, make sure that these sections are very well utilized. Or if you don't have a lot of work experience in the field that you are trying to go to, and let's say you've only studied this, make sure you highlight the courses that speak to this different industry and the projects that you've worked on that speak to that industry. And again, recommendations. If people can say nice things about you, have it on your profile, but just know that any future employee will do a reference check, but just have recommendations on your profile. So that's the profile checklist. Again, I spoke about how a profile is not a stale resume. Your profile is very dynamic, right? It speaks to all potential employers and not just a single one. And it goes more into detail about your skills, your passions, and your interests that in a way that a resume cannot, right? And then it allows you to interact with other professionals. I highly encourage that you all connect with me, right? So it keeps you engaged with other professionals. So don't look at it as just a stale resume that you're only going to put up once and then leave there. As I mentioned, take a great photo. It doesn't have to be anything super fancy. I made a commitment once I left government to never wear a blazer again, ever. And I haven't just yet. So I'm going to make sure that my profile speaks to who I am as a person, so I don't have that blazer in that picture, right? But members with profile photos receive up to 21 times more views and 9 times more connection requests. You just want to have a picture up there. Again, your profile should be written in your words. I see a lot of people, this is kind of off track, I see a lot of people who just have the country that they're in their location. You really want to have the city that you're in also, because again, if you just have Canada and a recruiter is looking for people specifically in Montreal, Quebec, then you won't get picked up. So make sure that it's very specific to where you actually are, and make sure that every section is filled out, and go through that profile checklist that we talked about. I have a profile checklist handout. I'll share it with the CATS team, and that will help you kind of develop each of your profile sections if you haven't done so already. Again, your headline. As I mentioned, sometimes that headline is all people see, right? That headline should speak to where you are, where you're going, where you are right now and where you're going, and then also speak a bit about your values, right? My headline says, working in partnership with higher education to connect students to opportunities at scale. Again, that's all I do. If I'm not working with students, if I'm not connecting them to opportunities, I don't want to hear about it. Like, that's all I do, right? So again, speak to where you are, where you're going, and what your values are. Your summary, you should have, again, 1 to 2 sentences about who you are, about your experience and your future goals, as we talked about. And I like summaries that are written, again, in the first person. And then finally, you want to use LinkedIn to develop your professional voice. So you have this great LinkedIn profile. It's fantastic. You went through the profile checklist. You have every section there. What you want to do is then use LinkedIn to develop your professional voice. You want to appear on people's LinkedIn feeds, right? So you want to write posts, you want to write articles, and really contribute and really like showcase your personality and contribute thought leadership with your network. Again, I like to share on LinkedIn, but I don't share on LinkedIn as much as I should, or as much as I did in the past. But if you go through the posts I have shared, they really speak to that connecting students from marginalized communities to opportunities. They really speak to it, because again, that's what I'm passionate about, and that's what I want to be known for as a professional. So just write posts. If you're not comfortable writing a post, comment on people's posts. Be active on the platform. Let's say you attended let's say you attended this workshop, a great workshop online on how to build your profile. Write about it. Write a quick post about it. Hey, I joined the CATS workshop on how to advance your career on LinkedIn. I thought it was great. Here are the 3 things that I learned. That is it. Again, you want to generate traffic to your profile. To give you an example, the opportunity I had with UN Women, I hosted a session with them on how to get women into STEM fields. That opportunity came to me simply because I had written a post on LinkedIn that had generated, I think, like tens of thousands of views. So the person who had that opportunity found me because she saw my posts on LinkedIn. So again, this is another way to bring opportunities to you as opposed to you going fishing for opportunities. Okay, I'm gonna pause here. I've been talking for a while. Any questions on the chat? No?
So far, there's no questions on the chat. People are just thanking and introducing themselves.
Cool. Okay, sounds good. So I'm going to try to wrap this next part up in about 10-15 minutes, because again, I want to make sure that I leave some room for questions. So if you have questions, drop them in, and then we will get there. We talked about showcasing your value, or building a strong LinkedIn presence. Now, how do you build your professional network? We are in a crazy time. Everybody's at home. We can't go to all of all of the fun networking events that we usually go to, right? Collision is coming up in a couple weeks. That's a huge tech conference in Toronto, which brings about 30,000 people usually. Now we're doing Collision at home, right? So how can you build your professional network in a time where we're not seeing each other every day? So let's talk about that. 50% of hires result from a personal connection. I got this job, I got recruited for this position at LinkedIn, but I already knew like 8 people who worked in the Toronto LinkedIn office, right? And they were the ones who put in recommendations for me, right, after the fact. So again, 50% of hires result from a personal connection. If you think about it, you have your first degree connections. These are the people that you know. These can be your colleagues, these are your classmates, these are people in your neighborhood. Those are the people within your sphere of influence. Those people are connected to others, your second degree connections. It's very easy to tap into your second degree network. And to be honest, the majority of your opportunities will come from your second degree connections. These are friends of friends. They can be other professionals in the same industry. And again, they're connected to people that you know, and asking them for opportunities is a little less challenging because you can say, hey, Emily, can you introduce me to Steve? He's one of your connections. And then Emily may know Steve. They may have grown up together their whole lives. Again, it takes away that, it creates a level of closeness there. And then you have your third degree connections. Your third degree connections are a little harder to tap into. This is a classic. It happened to a friend of mine. A little harder to tap into, but then still there. So your third degree connections are people, again, floating within your network, but you can still connect to them. It's just a little harder to do so. So I always say when you're networking, first thing you should do is tap into your first degree connections, then your second degree connections. So let's talk about expanding your network strategically before we get into who you should actually contact. So who should you reach out to? People that you have something in common with, people who have worked at a job or a company that interests you, and people who may be able to connect you to someone who can help you achieve your goals. I'm a huge fan of that third one. As I mentioned, you have to be able to articulate your values and your goals, right? So people reach out to me a lot because they are interested. I'm in a sales role. They're interested in getting into sales, right? They want to know how to become like a sales manager, something like that. I've only been in sales for 10 months. I have no idea how to do that, right? When I figure it out, I will let you know. But I can connect you with somebody who has been a sales professional for 15 years. As long as you tell me what your goals are, I can do that. If you're interested in getting into government, okay, I used to work in government. I can connect you to somebody in government who is able to, again, help you achieve your goals, as long as I know what your goals are and you're able to articulate them. What should you say? Introduce yourself. Introduce yourself. Mention how you came across their profile, how they can help you, but then also how you can help them. I show Roman's profile a lot, the student that I showed in the profile checklist, because again, he reached out to me on LinkedIn. He wanted to connect, and then I'm very open to connecting with students. And then we had a conversation, but he also offered to help me after I had helped him. I work with universities. He mentioned that he could make introductions to his professors. Again, super helpful. There's always going to be something that you can offer in return. And if that professional may not have anything that they want necessarily, it's great for you to even offer that up as a service. People will just really appreciate that. Okay. Send invitations to your second degree connections. Again, your first degree connections, you should already know them. Your second degree connections are the friends of friends. You can send invitations to your second degree connections. It's just a little easier to start there. And always, 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 if you send a connection request, put a customized message. I get so many invitations on LinkedIn that I would really appreciate a personalized message, just saying why you want to connect with me, if we've met in the past, where have we met. Today, we're all in this webinar together. If you send me a connection request, be like, hey, I was in the CATS webinar. would love to connect with you. Keep it simple. I would love to join your network. I mentioned this at the CATS session that I usually don't accept people without a personal invitation. And I mentioned at the CATS session that it's actually a great practice for professionals to get into, to send that person who sent you a connection message, a connection request, a message, and ask them, hey, not sure why you're sending me a connection request. Would love to know where we've met or how I can help you. Again, just invite them into your network and kind of remind them that it's very helpful to send a customized invitation. So highly recommend that. And now how you can build your professional network is also to discover your existing connections. Again, bring in the people that already know you, people that you may have grown up with, friends or family, current and former colleagues. Like, let's say you worked at the government of Canada and there's probably a bunch of people that you didn't connect with at the time. Connect with them now. Start there, right? These are the people, use the people that you may know feature, right? Because that takes from your personal contacts and goes from there. And then you can also search for new connections using the search bar. Search for second degree connections, so the friends of friends. Start with a company that you're potentially interested in working at. Start with the company. Hey, do you know somebody who knows somebody who works there, right? If you are in Montreal or interested in opportunities in Toronto, do you know anybody in Toronto, right? So again, use that search for new connections directly in the search bar. But then you can also, this is where the real gold mine is, you can also explore your alumni. I went to the University of Ottawa. I'm in Toronto. I get University of Ottawa students contacting me on a regular basis. So using the alumni feature on McGill's alumni page, so if you see down here, there's this alumni feature here, you can see where the alumni are living, where they're working, what they do, and what they study. Let's say they work at a super cool company that you'd be interested in working at, then you can see that, oh, hey, well, you both went to McGill, you both have something in common, right? And that alumni could help highlight some career pathways, for you. So let's say that alumni is vice president of HR at a great company. That alumni can help you work backwards to help you figure out how they got to where they are. So reach out to them if they have a career interest that interests you, if they have a career that interests you, and ask for an informational interview. It never hurts to ask. That there's already a level of familiarity there because you're both alumni from the same school, right? So definitely start there. And then again, always add a personalized message to make it clear why you are reaching out, right? We met earlier today at a conference. I'd love to set up an informational interview. Again, just have it there. And then last but not least, join groups. I am in a lot of LinkedIn groups, and the LinkedIn groups have never been more important than they are right now. These groups are for professionals in your industry, alumni from your school, or pretty much anything. Like, I'm in a lot of visible minority groups in Toronto. Like I'm in a tech group for Black professionals. I'm in a leadership group for women in Toronto in tech. So again, there's a bunch of different interest groups there, and then having a very diverse network will help connect you to diverse opportunities. So join diverse groups. Okay. And finally, how to actually use your network on LinkedIn to connect you to opportunities. So we talked about building your presence, build your network. Now you use your network, right? Use in the nicest possible way. The first thing that you should do is to add value and engage with your network. So invest time. We're all at home right now. So invest the time in building your connections and asking for those informational interviews. If you can clearly articulate your goals and your values, then it will make asking for that informational interview a lot easier, because you already know what you want from that interview, right? And then that professional will know why you're asking them for an interview. Makes it easier. Like and share, be active on LinkedIn. You want to appear as many times as possible on people's feeds. It's a social platform. People want to see what you're doing, what you're interested in, right? What you care about. Make sure you show that. Join groups, exchange insights. And again, give testimonials and recommendations. This is how you engage with your network, period. LinkedIn members get hired 4 times more likely when they are referred. Again, you want to have a strong network, a strong and diverse network, so that you can ask for informational interviews and then potentially ask for a referral down the line. Referrals just create a level of trust, right? You know somebody, this professional has been working at this company for X number of years and they recommend you. That is a great in. So how to ask for informational interviews. I know it sounds easier than it is. So here are some tips on what to ask in your message, right? So the purpose of the informational interview is for you to gain insights and advice on your career path. So this Erin here is the brand communications director. You're interested in communications. Again, you want that professional to highlight their career pathway for you, right? How did they get to where they are? If you are interested in a specific industry or a company, and then again, it will help you gain additional insights. Is this actually a company that I would want to work for? And this professional, if they're at the director level, they probably have hiring power. If they don't have an opportunity right now on their team, in the future, they will consider you. If you leave a good enough impression, they will consider you for future opportunities that they hear of, right? So again, asking for those interviews helps create that level of trust, and again, you will be top of mind for future opportunities. Request referrals. I always say do this after you've done an informational interview. Never request referrals if you don't know the person. Because that person is putting their name on the line. So they should at least know who you are and what your values and your goals are in your professional background. So again, ask for referrals after the fact. And ask for a conversation. Ask for referrals over the phone. I think it's a lot easier to do. And that is pretty much it. So we went through the 4 different stages. So build your presence, articulate your value, build your network, use your network. So ask for referrals, ask for informational interviews, and just connect with people. Add and engage and add value to your network. Okay, I kind of sped by those last couple of slides because I wanted to make sure that I had time for questions. And that is pretty much it. Thank you so much for letting me go through that. I will pass it to the CATS team. Any questions on your side?
Thank you. So thank you. This was a fantastic presentation. And yes, we do have a lot of questions.